Okay, let's multiply together a binomial and a trinomial. So if you take a look at my example here, the first one is a trinomial. It's made up of 3 parts. And my second expression that I'm multiplying is a binomial, which is only made up of 2 parts. And my directions say to simplify, which means our job is to multiply these together into one expression, which is always simpler than 2 expressions. Right? So the process here is not going to change at all. We're multiplying together 2 expressions. We're going to multiply everything in the first one times everything in the second one. So I'm going to start out way at the beginning, and I'm going to multiply 2y squared right into the second expression. And I'm going to say 2y squared times y. Well, that's going to give me 2y cubed. And I'm going to keep going. 2y squared also needs to be multiplied by 3. So I'm going to call that 6y squared. Okay. And then I'm going to move on to the second term, which don't forget to bring the minus sign when you bring 5y. So negative 5y times y. Well, that's negative 5y squared. And I can also do negative 5y times 3. Well, that's going to give me a negative 15y. Right? And then finally, this one has a third term, so I do need to include that as well. I'm going to say 4 times y. Well, that's just 4y. And I'm going to do 4 times 3. And we know that that's 12. Okay? So again, if you take a look, I had a 3-term expression and a 2-term expression. 3 times 2 gives me 6. And if you count here, I do have 6 terms. So that's a great check to make sure that you're accounting for all of the multiplying and all of the distributing that you have to do. Okay, so the last step, just like with binomial times binomial, is now that we have all of these expressions multiplied out, we need to combine like terms. So 2y cubed, I don't see any other y cubed, so I'm going to say, well, that one's by itself, no like terms. I'm going to look and I see 6y squared minus 5y squared, well, that's just 1y squared, which remember we can always just represent without the 1. And then I have another one over here, I have negative 15y plus 4y, well, that's going to give me negative 11y. And then the 12 at the end has no other constant terms, so I'm just going to attach that on. So again, I took a 6-term expression, multiplied it together into a 4-term expression, and I would say that this represents the product. So again, same basic process here, except I just have to do more multiplying because I have 3 terms in the first expression and 2 in the second, instead of the last example where we had 2 and 2, or the monomial case where I only had maybe 1 and 2 or 1 and 3. But we're always distributing and we're trying to combine like terms. Okay? So here's another example, and I just wanted you to see this one because it's basically just the opposite order. I have the binomial first and the trinomial second. So it's going to look a little different because I'm going to connect the 2x to all 3 of the parts in the second one and then do my multiplication. So 2x times 3x squared gives me 6x to the third, because remember 1x and 2 more x's is 3x's. 2x times 10x gives me 20x squared, and 2x times negative 20 gives me negative 40x. And then I'm going to do the same thing with the negative 5. So again, don't forget that minus sign. Negative 5 times 3x squared is negative 15x squared. And I'm going to continue. Negative 5 times 10x is negative 50x. And negative 5 times negative 20, I'm going to squeeze in here at the end, is plus 100. Okay? So again, I have 6 terms, which came out of a 2-term times a 3-term. Let's combine like terms so we can finish this one up. 6x cubed, 20x squared, minus 15x squared that's over here. Well, that looks like a positive 5x squared. Negative 40x, and there should be a little x squeezed in here. Negative 40x times negative or minus 50x is going to give me negative 90x. And then that plus 100 again is all by itself, so I'm just going to say plus 100. Okay, so I'm going to say 6x cubed plus 5x squared minus 90x plus 100 represents the product of those 2 terms.